Welcome to DevaTree's Love Who You Are podcast. If you're new to DevaTree, we certify meditation teachers and offer online courses in yoga for anxiety and teaching yoga to children. DevaTree's been a leader in the wellness industry for almost 30 years. I'm your host, Candice Lapointe. Join me as I connect with insightful guests who share the surprising places their meditation, yoga, and wellness journey have taken them. Navigating the human experience can feel perilous at times, but our guests share how embracing their radical uniqueness and applying self-compassion can change everything. Happy new beginnings, my friends, and welcome to our most tender podcast yet. Get ready to hold space for tears, smiles, stories, and lots of compassion as we explore the empty nest experience together. I was thrilled to be joined by DevaTree co-founder and therapist, Carolyn Burke, and to welcome back Ayurvedic practitioner, Bija Repta. When Carolyn was in New York City dropping off her daughter at school, our podcast co-producer, Tamika Shilby, who is also Carolyn's platonic life partner, was researching how to best support Carolyn through this tender phase of life. When she didn't find what she was looking for, we decided to create our own conversation about empty nesting right here on the Love Who You Are podcast. Carolyn and Bija both have experience launching their older kids into the world, but they were only a couple of weeks into the full empty nest experience when we recorded. So they share a new and raw and fresh take on a stage of life that can be full of conflicting emotions. There's something magical that transpires when we share our journey out loud with others. We realize that our experiences aren't unique at all. There's a therapeutic quality in bearing our soul, if we're ready, and it can bring a lot of comfort knowing that others are moving through similar situations. Even if you aren't a parent trying to find your footing during this stage of life, you'll glean a lot from our conversation and be able to apply it to other major life transitions. We want to acknowledge that every family is unique and each child and parent are navigating their own special set of circumstances. And a lot of young people are struggling with mental health and other challenges these days. So remember to listen with great love for yourself and the struggles that you might be carrying. Whatever you're experiencing this new academic year, know that you are not alone. Let us know what you're moving through, my friends. We're holding space for you. Enjoy this episode. Well, hello, you two beautiful souls. Thank you so much for being here on the Love Who You Are podcast. I'm so excited to see you again, Bija. Welcome back. And Carolyn.
Thank you.
Oh, it's so amazing to have the family member from DevaTree, the co-founder. And so I want to thank you both again so much for coming on. There's been a lot unfolding lately, and I know that you both have been experiencing some major transitions and shifts in your lives. And so this is what has brought us here today. You both have been seeing off your babies, and we wanted to check in and talk about your experiences and how this has been looking like for you both, and how it's been things that you thought were going to be feeling and happening, and maybe some surprises too. So I don't know if you, Bija, wanted to kind of let us in on what your experience has been like the last couple of weeks, and then maybe Carolyn, you can share as well, but we'll maybe take some turns.
Absolutely.
Sharon.
Sounds great.
Thank you, Candice. Oh, I feel like this is so important that we're doing this. You know, it was a hesitation at first because of, the tears that might come and bringing up the feelings. But I really feel like people need to hear more about this. There's so little out there and it's all very repetitive, the information. So thank you for inviting me to talk about this. I think it's going to be therapeutic. I know it's going to be therapeutic for me as well. And it's been a process for me. My daughter, Sky, left 3 years ago to go to university and came home for summer and now lives away from home. And then my son started university last September. So it was a transition into going to res, which felt more like camp. And I knew he was coming home for the summer. So this is like another level of that same stepping stones that we go through of now both of them are not just out of the house and at university, but I know they're not coming home next summer. So it feels I've gone through it already a few times, but it feels different. This time feels like there's more of a finality around it, or like just a new reality that I knew was coming, but you can't really prepare yourself for. I wanted to start out by saying that I don't align with the empty nest kind of wording, which seems to be the only phrasing out there for this stage of life. And I read something several years ago that I hang on to, I think of all the time when people ask me about being an empty nester, how's your empty nest, all of that. I always say, actually, I'm not an empty nester, I'm a bird launcher. And that really changed things for me, of feeling like not the emptiness, but the like did my job and they're launching their own lives. It really, really helped me. Yeah. So I feel like I'm living in a duality right now of sadness and like really like missing my kids like in my bones, like so deeply. And then also these feelings of excitement because they're thriving and they're happy and they're ready and they're on their life journey, and it's beautiful. So I'm really excited for them. Like I love hearing about what they're doing. It makes me feel good to know that it's not they're happy without me or not being home. I really love hearing that they're thriving on their own. It feels like that's what we prepared them for all of these years. But it's also, yeah, that duality, I guess, is what it is, of moments of like, oh, so exciting, thinking about them being in class and with their friends. And, oh, I know this guy's doing this right now, Zen's doing this right now. But then all of a sudden it takes me out when I feel like I was about to call upstairs to Zen and realize he's not there. Like it happens in an instant, but you do that. You're like, oh, no, wait a second. He's not in his room. Or sharing with Carolyn, the grocery store for some reason seems to be, which is not where you want to be having emotional breakdown. That's where it seems to get me. I think because you're just in a like not thinking or not in your head. And so it just gets me when I go to reach for his favorite yogurt or trail mix. I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't need to buy this. He's not at home eating meals with me right now. So those are the moments, or watching a show on Netflix and all of a sudden it's about this. It's about somebody leaving to go to school and the feelings around that. And then I'm just like, oh, and here we go again. So lots of tears in the last couple of weeks, though I hadn't had a breakdown, like I hadn't had a full sobbing sadness release. And I was kind of thinking like, oh, maybe that's not going to happen this time. Like maybe I'm processing it differently than last year. And then on Sunday, I just like lost it and had the full, sorry, I keep touching my headphones by mistake. I had this full sobbing release that felt so good afterwards. Of course, it wasn't fun during, but afterwards it felt like that's what I needed. I needed this to happen, to feel it, because I think I was a little bit numb, like a little bit, it wasn't real. And now it feels a bit more real, which I don't know if that's good or bad, but it felt good. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like I'll be happy and excited for them one moment, and then the next moment just feel like this heart-wrenching missing them. Yeah.
I can really relate to that. I'll just say it's a bit raw for me right now because it's been about a week, maybe a week and a few days since I dropped off my youngest. And so I'm like, wow, like this is really new. And I find what I'm in is just trying to situate myself because so much has happened to get ready for this moment that I recognize there's been a lot of buildup and just a lot of activity. And so my eldest has been launched in university, but she was home for the summer. So it's a very busy time in my household. It was a lot of helping my youngest get ready for her first year in the United States. So we had a lot of stuff to do that was different and we didn't know how to do. So there was just a lot of stress. So I find right now I'm just situating myself like, where am I? What's happening? And it's a major life change. Like empty nesting is, the term sounds like focusing on empty, but there is a part that I could resonate with, which is like, yeah, the house is empty. It's super quiet right now. And that's hard to get used to be like, the bustle and the hustle, which sometimes drove me nuts, especially in the evenings, because it's just like my house never slept. It's just very still and very quiet. So I think I'm situating myself, trying to see where I've been, like looking over my shoulder and saying like, wow, not just the last few weeks or even the last few months of helping my youngest get ready to go, finishing her high school, all that, but also the last 20 years of my life has been parenting. And that's been like one of my most important, exciting, a role that I've loved. And now it's coming to an end. Like there's something different that's about to happen now, right? Which is parenting adults and getting ready for those new exciting things. Like you were saying, Bija, like happy they're having fun, and but noticing this ending. That's really what it is for me right now, is just recognizing the end of a life stage, that this life stage is coming to a close, and it's just going to look different now. It's going to be great, but it's different. It's different than having everybody underfoot and being able to call their names and open the door and find them in their bedroom. It's just a different thing. Waiting, I notice right now for me, it's like waiting for contact, which is funny. Like, are they going to text me? Are we going to have a phone call? And not wanting to interfere with their lives and make it about myself, which is like, I want them to call. I wonder if they slept last night. Did they eat? What did they eat for dinner? Like, so funny. Like, it just goes back to all of those earlier times of being responsible, and yet they're old enough to be away. They're doing the things they need to be doing. So yeah, I think recognizing like excitement for them, feeling proud too.
Okay, wow. I'm loving these
Yeah.
perspectives, you guys, and just seeming like there's a wide spectrum of emotions that are arising, and it's almost moment by moment. There are things that you're experiencing that are giving you rushes of perhaps loneliness and just this raw feeling like you were experiencing and explaining, Carolyn. And so, wow, just a bunch of things that are coming up. And I think one thing that I'm hearing you guys say, there's a bunch of emotions, and it's going to look different probably for everybody, right? And that it's okay to have whatever is arising arise. And it's awesome that you guys are just taking note of these things, and perhaps even surprised about where you're feeling these emotions, like the grocery store and
Yeah.
that sort of thing, right? Did either of you have thoughts moving up to the day or the launch, as you said, Carolyn, as to how this would impact you? And did any of you do any sort of prep work to give yourself that preparedness for this feeling of empty nest?
I mean, for me, I would say in the sense of like it's the whole focus. Like it's the whole focus of the house was like getting ready, going. Um, I felt like for me, I was going to have like a letdown and feel some tiredness. So I was trying not to like over program myself and have a little bit of space to just feel what's happened, and also um, at the same time distract myself a little bit with work at first, but know that I knew that I would just need space. So when people are like, oh, what are you going to be doing? And it's kind of weird the way they ask these questions. It's like, well, actually, I've never been through this before. So I have no idea how long it's going to take, what I'm going to notice, like what I'm going to need necessarily. So what I was trying to do is just lower any expectations. Like, I don't know what it's going to feel like. So I'm going to allow myself space to discover that. And I don't know how much time it's going to take before I feel really excited about new things, or I just want to like allow that space. So for me, I would say that was the preparation.
So beautiful. And I guess, yeah, you're making me think, Candace, about preparedness, because I know I said earlier, you can't prepare yourself for this. There's no manual, but you're right. There's preparing yourself emotionally. I know Ann and I talked a lot this summer about what it was going to look like being separate. We had tears over what that was going to feel like. So that's preparing in a way of letting some of that energy out prior to the day so that I didn't fall apart on him on the actual moving day. I wanted that to be about him and his experience. And I tell my kids that a lot. Like if I'm sad and I'm crying because I miss you, I don't ever want you to feel like it's your responsibility to stop that or help that. It's just natural tears. They're happy tears in a way too. I don't want them to be worrying about me. So preparing them ahead of time, I guess they knew, I mean, they know me very well. So they knew there'd be lots of tears, emotions. They're good with that. So I think I prepared that way. I didn't, and I don't think I could have prepared for that the quiet in the house. That was such a huge difference. Carolyn, you put it perfectly, the hustle bustle and sometimes chaos of, I'm getting choked up, of the like life, right? And then that's not the case at this point. And I also feel like having your find your peeps. So anybody that's listening to this or watching and your friends or your community are not feeling the same way. You know, there's a lot of parents I hear over and over again, like, woohoo, like, yay, they're 18, they're leaving the house, like finally, and can't wait to have the house to myself. And I so don't resonate with that feeling. So I want to respect that they're feeling that way, but I can't be in that energy of like, see ya kind of thing. That's not who I am. That's not how I parent. That's not my relationship with my kids. So I would say find your people that, even though it's not going to be exactly the same, you know, Carolyn and I aren't feeling exactly the same way, but there's so much commonality in just how we parent and how we feel about our kids that you sometimes might not find that from part of your circle. So find the people that are feeling what you're feeling to some degree.
You know, I was thinking too is that everybody feels differently, like you're saying. So like there's some people that feel this relief, like you said, Bija, like, whew, my job is done. One of my colleagues a while ago told me that when her son moved out, her and her husband just looked at each other and didn't get off the couch for a year. I mean, I'm sure it was a bit of an exaggeration, but I was like, that was her level of like, exhaustion, but also some relief. Okay, we did it. We got to the end line, which I can understand. Like sometimes the holy cow goodbye comes from a place of, whew, we're gassed, you know, we're out of breath here, right? But also I was thinking about how everybody's different. Like I know in partnerships, like for myself, Tamika is my platonic partner. And so she's been in the kids' lives since they were born. But more recently has moved in with us for the last couple of years. So she's been able to be a part of this launch and also helping to raise these girls in their teenage years. And like, I recognize that we're going to have different experiences. So she's kind of tuning in, I noticed, to like the energy of new beginnings, like almost like the parallel process between what the kids are going through and what we're going through, almost picking up on their energy in a way too. So I'm just aware of the fact, like everybody will be different in terms, like you said, everyone's so different.
Yeah.
In terms of how they feel this. And it's like any life change, right? Like going through a divorce or losing a loved one. There's just so much variety in our experiences. And each child is so different. You probably feel this way, Bija, from one kid to the other. One of my children is not really great with texting. She's just not a texter. So it makes it hard because she just won't respond, or she'll give one word answers. And then you're like, okay, do I keep going with this? Do I pick up the phone and call? Do I give her space? Like everybody's different in terms of how they process their grief or their excitement about this new beginning too.
Yeah.
That's so interesting, Carolyn, because just as you were talking about that, it kind of brought me back to a yoga teacher training that I had with you. And I think it was one of our last sessions. And it was like, what do endings look like for you? Or how do you feel about
Mhm.
endings? And I remember just everybody in the room having such unique answers, differing answers as to what that looked like for them. And so it kind of just brought me back to that again. Everyone's experience is completely different. And it's like what you said, it's different even in amongst the children that you've seen off already versus what's kind of unfolding now for particular um, children that maybe aren't the best communicators or texters. And so was there any conversation beforehand about what the expectation would be hearing from them, or how often you would hear from them, or was there anything put in place as to, again, in terms of regularity, that you'd be communicating with them, or was it kind of just like, we're going to see how this all plays out?
Bija,
For
what do you think?
for wasn't a conversation about any expectations around that, more just kind of go with the flow. And if I hadn't heard back for a little bit, just that nudging, the gentle nudging of, hey, can you just respond to my text from this morning? Or when's a good time to chat in your schedule, so that we could have like actual chats and not just
Mm.
texting. But I have to say, they've both been really amazing at reaching out when they have time just for no reason and having lovely conversations. But then times happen too, like days go by where it's just texting back and forth about day and anything that's come up. Or feel like this new stage, I am still feeling like they really need us. Like it's not letting go of like, oh, not having to mom anymore, like be in that role. It's still there. They just need you in a different way, which I'm really loving. Like how our adult relationship is just naturally, organically flowing, and that they still really need and ask for advice and help with things. And yeah, I'm really grateful for that, to just, because I think that's part of it. It is for me anyways, that not feeling as needed when you've
Yeah.
been so needed. That again, this duality, I think I'm just living in duality right now in general. This duality of, I spent 21 years and pouring into Sky, and then 19 years into Zen, like so much energy towards this happening, towards them being independent, being free, and making good choices and being ready. But then the flip of that is like, oh, kind of ironic that we spend that 20 years getting them ready for something that's going to break our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
like, hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just playing with all of that. And just, I haven't had to say, hey, I need a conversation. I think that they feel it when it's time to come home or to make a date for a plan, so that we have something to look forward to. I'm so lucky that my kids are only an hour and 15 minutes away, so I can go there and just
Mm.
have a coffee and hang out or have dinner, but I also don't want them to feel like I'm pushing into their time, which, so I think it just happens organically of like, yeah, we're excited, come and see us. And it's not too much. So it's finding that balance of, for me, having a plan, like, when are you coming home next, so that I know I have something to look forward to. And they both love being home, but they also are very social and have lots of friends and lots of things happening and studying and all of that. So yeah, there wasn't, I guess your question was, did we say like, we're going to talk on Tuesdays and Saturdays at this time? Like, we didn't do anything like that. It's much more organic. And I know I can say, either of you have time right now, I'm not busy, and I would love to have a catch up chat. So we have catch up chats often.
I love that. You know, it makes me smile, Candace, because when I went to school, of course, there was no texting. It was long distance phone calls.
Yeah.
And my family, I remember her saying, like, you can call once a week on Sundays. And I was like, I'm going to call whenever I want. And that's what I did. And so with my own kids, I was like, you can call whenever you want. We can stay in touch whenever you want. Like Bija said, it was more in flow. But even like each kid being different, it's also like each year is different. Like when
Mm-hmm.
my eldest went into her first year of university, she was kind of gone for a while, like really having fun, really out there meeting people and touching down from time to time. Like, Mom, guess what? Like, I can't figure out this laundry machine. Like, I can't load the money on the card. And can you help me with this? Like needing me, like you said, Bija. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
really relate to that. Oh, it feels so good to be needed again. But then she was gone for periods of time where I was like, wow, she's having a lot of fun and not thinking about home. Whereas her second year, she was connecting a lot more, needing more support, living with roommates in a house situation. Like, it was just a bit more challenging. And so I really also remind myself that each kid is different, but also each year of school or job that they're in or wherever they've launched to can have different needs as well. Like, it's so unique to the relationship that you have with your kid, and also like needing help with things. Like, some kids might need more help with certain things than others. If your child has learning issues, if they're struggling with homesickness, if they're, they're going to need different things based on what's going on for them as well.
Are you passionate about meditation but find you've lost focus and inspiration in recent years? Are you searching for the right techniques to help create a meditation practice? Our online meditation teacher certification explores this expansive and life affirming practice in a way that honors your individuality. When it comes to meditation, we all need something unique, and this course offers you endless creative options so you can uncover the style that works best for you. Head over to DevaTree.com, DevaTree.com, to get started today. See you there. So interesting, Carolyn. It's making me think more about the relationship aspect. Given your therapeutic background, I know that you probably worked with couples. Could you maybe explain a little bit more about the varying emotions that you've seen within couples and how that this could be challenging? It's like, looking over at your person and seeing that them basically as them for the first time without kids being around, and what that can look like for differing couples.
Absolutely. You know what's so interesting is it's like any life transition, it can bring up a lot of stuff. So for some people, kids can be a great distraction from other stuff that kind of gets put aside, like strain in the relationship. So all of a sudden, everybody's gone, and you look around the room and you're like, whoa, it's just the two of us. How's this going to go? So I think sometimes what it does is it brings the issues to light, or it could even just be like somebody in the relationship questioning their career or not knowing what's right for them. So it's very unique to each person, but I've definitely seen issues come to the surface. It's a good time to get some counseling support if you need it, because you might find a strain in the relationship. So like you said, could be the differences between each other. I had a friend mention that for her husband, it was hard because he wasn't getting as much communication from their daughter, because she was the one that was more home with the kids and around all the time. It was more natural for her to reach out to her mom. So his feelings were hurt. Like, why isn't she reaching out to me? He had to work through some of that as well, and her trying to include him as well. But I think overall, respecting and honoring the differences is going to help. So even I have a client I was working with whose child was starting kindergarten. She was really upset because her partner just wasn't feeling as upset as she was. And it's like, yeah, he's having a totally different experience than you are. You've been in a different role than he has. He's not feeling this like pull on the heart in the same way. But yeah, I would say one of the main things that people come up against is conflict in the relationship that might have been there already and needing to address it. And then as a therapist, if I'm working with someone, I would say the same things that we're saying here, which is give yourself space. Because when you're going through a life transition, there's stuff that you just aren't, like, you don't know what you're going to feel. Like Bija was saying, like one day it's really easy and the next day it's really hard. So can you give yourself compassion, but also just the space to look after yourself, whatever that looks like for you? Because I know for myself, there's more space. That's what it is. Like all of a sudden I'm pulling weeds from the garden. What? I haven't had time to do that in months. Like I'm like, oh, what else am I doing? I'm fixing things around the house. What's going to come next? There's going to be space to create something new. It might affect one member of the couple more than the other. If somebody's been away traveling on business and not as involved, they might not have the same reaction. But I relate to what Bija said earlier too, and I'm jumping around a little. All of a sudden you're sobbing about, I was sobbing one night. What? It just came out of nowhere. And it was just, okay, I have to acknowledge the bigness of this transition, the feelings. So yeah.
Thinking too about you guys talking about your wanting to be needed as mothers. And I just couldn't help but just interject about my own feelings and relationship with my mother. A specific transition right now, but then it kind of just translates to the rest of your adult parent relationship, right? So I still think about all the times that I need my mom and how much I rely on my mom's wisdom and support. So I think things just never go away. And I know that obviously that is a little bit different for everybody in terms of their relationship with their parent or their mom. And so, yeah, it just has me really reflecting on how this is like a big moment, a big transition, and then it really does unfold and just paves the way for the way that you're going to interact, in your adulthood, your adult parent relationship. So,
It's interesting. Somebody suggested to me, I think I was talking to Bija about this the other day, like taking time to celebrate. What could you do to celebrate this milestone of you've parented these kids and they're ready to grow up and start their lives in a new way? And I was like, I don't even know what I would do. Like it could be going on a trip. It could be just having a ritual of some sort or a cupcake where you want to blow out the candle and say, you did it. Like, congratulations. You actually made it this far. And look what you've helped to create. And when you're saying this, Candace, too, like there's so much goodness to come and it's not over. And it's funny because people often say like, oh, they'll be back. They'll be back. They'll be back soon. And sometimes the problems are bigger, like what job to take and where to move to and partners and all sorts of things, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I really love the idea of a ritual. I think that our society in general in the West, we just don't have rituals for life-changing moments and all of the milestones of life. And this is another milestone of life. And it doesn't feel like a celebration to me, but like a ritual that this happened would be so cool to kind of just an acknowledgement of, okay, this is a new stage. A lot of cultures have rites of passage for when you become a woman or a man, depending on age and whatever's going on, when you become a parent. And I feel like we don't do anything around when our kids leave home. So having some kind of ritual to acknowledge it and like mark it as a huge life accomplishment and life change, I think it's a really cool idea.
And to feel proud of yourself too. Like, I hear the pride that you feel for your children. They're doing this and they're enjoying, and sometimes the kids aren't doing great, right? Yeah. Sometimes they need more support and that's really hard for a parent because they're like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Nothing. Your child's struggling and, it just looks a little different.
I'm going to ask a little bit more too about like how you guys essentially cope when you do get these feelings. I know that you've talked about giving yourself space and acknowledging that these are emotions that are arising, but what does it actually look like for you when you get these bouts of loneliness or sadness or grief that come about? I'm just thinking about, the kid is struggling in a particular way and you're not right there to be able to hold their hand through it. I can only imagine being a mother and what all that would feel like. So how do you guys handle those kinds of situations?
I've had this for both kids being sick right as soon as they leave. They call it the frosh flu, but getting really sick and not getting better. and them feeling like, oh, I just want you here to give me a hug, and me feeling like I just want to get there and give you your supplements. I've had that right off the bat with both of my kids. So I've found that I had to really watch my own outlets, like, okay, what can I do to be calm when I'm feeling sad or when I'm feeling overwhelmed with wishing I was able to help more. So for me, it's get on my mat, get in the bath, talk to a friend, cry. But yeah, I think when you point out the difficulties, like sometimes it's just so hard. For me, it's been when I don't hear from them that I feel like, is everything okay?
Mhm.
Rather than even when I do hear from them, even if they're struggling, I feel a bit better because I feel like, okay, well, we can talk about what do you think you need to do in this situation and how can I help you from over here?
Yeah, that was beautiful, Carolyn. Same, the sickness for sure is when you feel that like mama coming through of like, I want to make you tea and make sure that you're eating well and taking your vitamin C and all of that, which we can do over the phone, like prompt them to use the tools that you've given them, right? It takes lots of reminders sometimes of those tools. Much as I was swearing about technology before we came on, I love that we have technology for this reason, that we can FaceTime, that it's not just a voice on the phone. We can actually see each other. Even if they're just lying in bed studying, I can see their faces. It just feels so much more connected than a voice call. So I love that. A lot of hope, I think, going into them using the tools that I've shared with them, taught them, experienced with them to remind them, because I feel like I need that from my circle too, reminders of like, oh yeah, I could do that. For me personally, I feel like I've had a nice reconnection with nature in the last couple of weeks, like going for more walks, spending time walking a bit, sitting, looking at the water, meditating, and then walking again. Like physical movement has helped me when I'm feeling really stuck or just really sad. Sometimes I just want to cry. It feels so good and I need to do that. And other times I'm like, I don't want to go there right now. I don't want to be pulled down right now. I want to be lifted up. So then I'll go for a walk or call a friend or call the kids and just see if one of them's around to just have that little, even if it's 5 minutes, that little connection of like that, what did you eat today? Yeah. Those kinds of conversations of you have in your fridge and a lot. It really is a transition.
It's so interesting too, because the other part of it is as new beginnings for us as the parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or as the couple that have launched their children, like there's this openness to what's going to fill in the spaces. Even when you said being in nature, I'm like, yeah, I'm walking a little more, or I have like a little bit more time for these things that I just didn't have time for. So when I said at the beginning, I'm kind of situating myself, like trying to figure out where I am, looking over my shoulder and looking forward. It's like, well, in the looking forward, there's so much room to create some new things. More times with friends, like I'll have more time to do things. I don't plan to only dive into work deeper. I might be able to read more or listen to some more podcasts or connect with people that I haven't seen or actually do something just for myself. Like, what would that be? I actually don't know yet.
It's interesting, Carolyn. It's like this dichotomy of finding new things that are just for you versus a distraction. I think that there is like a difference, right? It's like distracting yourself from what you may be potentially feeling versus embracing new hobbies or things that you haven't been able to find the time for up until now. So
Yeah.
keeping that in mind as well.
Because it is a new beginning for us. And I was talking to a friend and she said, but I don't want the other thing to end. She's like, I'm not ready to let that end yet. I was like, yeah, I can relate to that too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's this in between time where you're letting go. And when you let go of something, there's always room for something new to come in.
Mm-hmm. That's so beautiful.
Mm.
Because that's what the kids are doing. Meeting new friends, going to new classes, like hanging out with their roommates or whatever it is.
That's so exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And just thinking too, have you guys had discussions about setting dates in the future, or like not expectations, but just, knowing that there's going to be times obviously that they're coming home and when that's going to happen and how that's going to look. And so being able to maybe use that as a piece to hold on to as well when you're going through some of these harder emotions. Have you guys do you know when the kiddos are coming back? And
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I can't wait to see you guys. And this is how many more weeks until we see each other again, for sure.
Yeah.
My younger one is in the States, and it's how, like you're saying, like, do you have any expectations? It was like, if you need me to hop on a plane, I'll be there in 2 hours, which is like so unrealistic, right? But like there's these promises we make to, like, I can be there if you need me, because she's not coming home till Christmas. So she doesn't get the same breaks as her older sister does in Canada. It's a longer time. So it's like, okay, I think people will be going down to visit her. There's a couple people that are planning, but I might not see her for a couple months. So I'm like, if you need anything, just let me know. I'll be there in a snap.
Right.
Yeah.
Or that it is a little bit of a differing situation, knowing again, that she's a little bit further away than your eldest, that there is going to be this space until you guys reconnect in person.
But like Bija said, we got all the technology to support us, which is lovely. If they have time to talk to you, like sometimes I'm like, maybe they just are too busy, right? Like trying to sort it all out. Like so much newness for them too, and newness for us, like new feelings of the silence, like you said, Bija, or the grocery store, or going into their bedrooms for me is hard. Like it's empty.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
It is. Yeah. I know that my kids are coming home for Thanksgiving and then staying for at least part of reading week. Not sure because, again, right, they have other plans, other friends, and that they want to spend time with. So I'm not sure. I don't have the expectation that they'll be home for the whole 10 days, but a good chunk. And I'll see them in September. Either one or both of them will come home for part of a weekend, like probably just one night, but I'll take it. That's great. If that doesn't work, I'm going there for one visit. So yeah, we do have not set in stone plans, but we do have that set up for them too, right? Like Sky was just expressing that she's really missing home. She wasn't home a lot this summer. And she lives in London now, and she was just expressing like, I really want to come home. So I think she at least will come home for a weekend or part of, but Zen was home. So he's flying free right now and getting into the swing of school and classes and roommates that he hasn't had before. And yeah, the letting go it comes in waves for sure of like, oh yeah, I always ask myself, like, what's best for them in this situation? Yeah. And then try my best to come from that place.
It's beautiful.
And it speaks volumes to how amazing both of you women are and how awesome a job you guys are doing, because they want to come home, right? They want to, they know that home is a soft landing. You guys are amazing. And wanted to offer in your couple of weeks of transition wisdom of what you're experiencing, or what you could offer for people going through similar situations.
I want to echo what Bija had said earlier, to like reach out to your people. When you're going through a transition, sometimes you want to just stay at home and cocoon. And I think that's okay to do that for some part of the time, but not for too long. Like, let people know how you're doing, have connections with others that might be going through the same thing. There's other people out there feeling the same way that you're feeling. And if not the exact same, they understand that this is happening for you. So you're not alone.
I find that too. And it's been surprising to me that friends that have much younger children, yourself, Candace, like you're a mom, you feel it. You can feel and have empathy for what that's going to be like for you in the future. So it hasn't even just been friends that are launching their kids. It has been, younger friends or friends that have younger kids that also like, they get it. They get it. So it's been helpful and kind of a nice, you were asking about surprises. That was a nice surprise. Like people have been so empathetic and beat around that and how I might be feeling. So that's been really wonderful. And if I can get through it, I would like to read this very short thing that helped me so much. And again, I read this often to myself about leaving the nest. That leaving the nest is to be fully, sorry, am I getting a little bit teary? Okay. I've realized that the secret to surviving my kids leaving the nest is to be fully present to support them and look forward to the future through the lens of their life, not backwards through the lens of my life. And that sentiment has helped me so much of just doing that, like thinking about all of the future, like the new beginnings Carolyn was talking about for us, for them. I mean, being nostalgic is part of this process for sure, but just not getting stuck in that, being able to look at like what they're doing and accomplishing. And it's so beautiful to be able to do that.
It's beautiful, Bija.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks so much, you guys. This has been an amazing journey through this transition. And I'm always so grateful for your wisdom and your insight and perspectives on these things. And I know it's not an easy thing to come and bare your soul and your heart as you move through these life stages. So thank you so much for sharing your perspective and what you're going through. Forever grateful for your love. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Candace.
Thank you so much,
you,
both
Bija.
of you. Big hugs.
That beautiful quote Bija read just now is by Cami Gilmore, author of the book Release My Grip, Hope for a Parent's Heart as Kids Leave the Nest and Learn to Fly. Yay! You made it to the end of the Love Who You Are podcast. If you liked this episode, please subscribe and leave a review, or text a friend and share the love. These small actions make a big difference in this realm, and we thank you. And we have a present for you, a guide to creating and sustaining a home practice. In this free video, 7 experienced wellness leaders share what it takes to overcome the struggle of creating a home practice in anything: yoga, meditation, journaling, or whatever you'd love to do more of. You don't want to miss the wisdom of these incredible women. You'll find your free gift at DevaTree.com. That's DevaTree.com. We'll see you next time, and know that you are loved.